Hello fellow brawlers, I'm KairosTime and it is time to brawl. This video is all about Hot Zone. Get in the zone, Hot Zone. We're gonna be covering the best brawlers for the mode, starting with the worst and working our way up to the best brawlers. If you're looking for an overall tier list with all of the brawlers and all of the modes, the tier list collaborators and brawl stats are helping me prepare for that right now. So make sure you guys turn on the notification bell so you do not miss it. It has been a long time since I've updated it and there are quite a few changes. So you're definitely not going to want to miss it. I think that's the second time I told you that. Now, before we get into the actual tier list, I wanted to talk a little bit about Hot Zone. Now, for Hot Zone, while it is kind of similar to Gem Grab and Siege because it's all about like maintaining control at a specific location, it's also kind of unlike any of the other 3v3 modes, okay? Hot Zone operates by better rewarding brawler clumping, like sticking together in order to sustain control of the zone. And this is actually like a big no-no in all of the other 3v3 modes where it is much better for you to spread out so it's hard for people to hit your shots, and so you can kind of like surround people and 2v1 people and things like that. Now there are a few different things that make a brawler better in Hot Zone because of this. First of all, an ability to sustain control at a set location like spawners, okay? Like Pam, right? Also, an ability to like move other brawlers or prevent brawlers from entering a zone, kind of like Terra is really beneficial. An ability to get themselves or help teammates get into the zone is really helpful, like Sandy's super, and like you get the idea. Also, a brawler's ability to deal with clumps of brawlers, like lots of brawlers all in one place, you know, pass through dealing damage to multiple people at the same time, like M's is really good. And then also a brawler's ability to deal with close range brawlers. This is super important. So kind of think of like Rosa, because you don't want to leave the zone. After all, it is Hot Zone, stay in the zone. Now for maps with 2 zones, a brawler's ability to like multitask zones, being like either using ranged abilities or like throwing a spawner or something like that, becomes really important. More so important than maps with just 1 zone. And anti-clump brawlers become even more important with maps that do have 1 zone. And they're a little bit less good on maps with 2 zones because you can just like, you know, you're gonna split up at least a little bit in that type of situation. Okay, now before we jump into the tier list, I wanted to give a big thank you to the tier list collaborators. These guys came up with this tier list. They went out, they tested things out, they discussed things. These guys are fantastic, and links to their social media in the description below. Now let's start off with the F tier. These are the brawlers that just really are not worth playing in the mode. Starting off, we got Leon, okay? With a lot of prevalence of brawlers clumping up and really a lot of high health brawlers in the mode, Leon just can't target one individual brawler, and he's really vulnerable to that melee damage, especially when he's getting teamed up on people, so he just really isn't very good. Crow also suffers from this. He just doesn't have the damage to deal with a lot of brawlers at close range and a lot of brawlers close to each other, and that means that he's going to be in the F tier. Next, we've got Colt. He's really vulnerable to melee damage, just people being really up close to him, and he's really inconsistent with that ranged combat due to his like high skill cap and the fact that he needs to be able to follow through and be able to like actually finish people off, and oftentimes people will hide behind walls and things like that, and makes him really weak in the mode. Dynamite also in the F tier. If anybody is uncomfortable getting up close and personal with enemies, it is Dynamite. He just cannot do it. He doesn't have the range or melee abilities. He just can't really compete with like the control of like Tick, and you know, when people get too close to him, it's so easy to dodge a shot, so he's just not good for Hot Zone. Mortis. Oh, you guys are gonna think I hate Mortis. I don't hate Mortis. I love Mortis, but he is not good for Hot Zone, okay? High health brawlers are really hard for Mortis to take out, and there are a lot of high health brawlers in Hot Zone. Now, unlike other melee brawlers, in close range combat, he just like can't deal with that consistent DPS. Like if you're gonna go with a close range brawler, at least go with the burst down potential of like Daryl or something like that. Also, due to the nature of his attack, he literally has 0 range. He has to be on the enemy. So he's either damaging enemy outside of the zone and he's not getting points, or he's damaging them inside of a zone and he's not getting points. So he's just kind of like not good either way. Now let's talk about the B tier brawlers. These are brawlers that can be played on either the right map or with the right comp, typically not competitively, but you can push them in the ladder if you want to. And you know, right map, right comp kind of thing. Starting off is Shelly. Okay, she is a beast against tanks, and sometimes that's really good for her, but she's also really vulnerable against brawlers that are really common in this mode that can just deal damage and outrange her, and she just, you know, she's only really good against tanks. Bull is also in the B tier. As a tank, he's viable, but there are better melee options. He can be pretty good on maps with one zone on the map, specifically the one with the box around it. I was gonna call it a hot zone. Wait, no, that was not what I was calling it. Bone box, but that was a long time ago. But he struggles a lot on the 2-zone maps, which is the majority of the maps, okay? Now, Brock, also in the B tier, he has really decent burst damage, and he's also got really good damage up close and like range to be able to deal damage from people far away. So that does make him viable. His super also does a really good job at clearing an entire zone while also breaking cover of some of those close range brawlers. However, with that lower amount of health that he has a really difficult time holding down a zone because he just kind of like has to fall back to stay alive. Now, Tick is interesting. Okay, on one hand, Tick is absolutely incredible at pushing brawlers outside of the zone. But, you know, yeah, he's got the range, he's got the spread of the attack, and you just kind of like to have to fall back. Now then, on the other hand, he has incredibly low health, and it is very difficult for him to maintain control of the zone when melee brawlers just kind of like are running toward him. Now, he can be played with the right team comp and on the right map, so that definitely justifies B tier. Now, Primo's also going to be in that B tier, okay? He's kind of similar to Bull. There are other high health brawlers and melee brawlers who are a little bit better than El Primo that do succeed in the mode. But El Primo, his ability to get back into the zone with his super is even like better than Bull's because of the fact that he's immune while he's traveling and he can just like jump right down, and all of a sudden people really do have to deal with him. We're also going to be putting Barley in the B tier, okay? Like a lot of the other throwers, Barley is vulnerable to close range combat, and that's a really large trade-off for the fact that he does have the ability to really control the hot zone. He is better than Tick and Dynamite at dealing with enemies up close though, so he can be played well. He's just typically not as good as the A tier or the S tier brawlers. Rico, also making his way into the B tier, okay? He has range damage and his ability to bounce his shots, he makes him a pretty decent choice. Similar to many other B tier brawlers though, he kind of lacks the ability to maintain that control of zone because he has that low HP. Piper is kind of in the same boat, right? She has the range and that great burst damage that makes it really good for her to be able to like take somebody out and then enter into the zone. And then if somebody does try to come to her zone, she does have her super to like run away, you know, because she's terrible up close. But in that type of situation, she gives up the zone, so, you know, not typically the best. Good on the right map. Now, Frank's also in the B tier. He does have the ability to pierce through multiple targets and deal damage to them and stun them, and he can really punish brawlers for clumping up. But he has that shot delay, and that is such a big weakness, and so that makes him just like not quite as good as some of these other brawlers consistently. However, on a single point map, you know, he can do really, really well. Now, BB's also in the B tier. You'd think that the knocking brawlers out of the zone might seem like pretty strong, but most of the time, it's actually just better to eliminate the brawler completely and to make it so that they have to wait even longer before re-entering, because she just like knocks them out and they can come right back, or she knocks them out and then they have that opportunity to run away and heal back up. Gene's also going to be in the B tier. He is great when he's outside of the zone because he can pull brawlers outside of it, but when he's in the zone, if he pulls an enemy toward him, that means that you're no longer scoring points, and that means that it could actually reset the countdown timer for you to actually score a point. Now, with the goal being to like stay in the zone and prevent enemy brawlers from getting into the zone, Gene's pretty limited in what he can do. Next, we've got Max. Now, Max's value is like in every mode is really in her super, right? Although she has a pretty good DPS now, but you guys get the idea. Her super can help her and her team get to the zone faster, but it's like kind of useless for continuing to maintain control of that zone. Poco's in the B tier. This was actually kind of a little bit of a toss-up for our collaborators. Poco's heals are amazing at allowing him to like regain health and get back into the zone, and also to do the same thing for his teammates. And he also benefits from having a ranged pierced attack that allows him to deal damage to multiple targets. But he just doesn't deal a lot of burst damage, and he's really vulnerable to close range combat, and he really lacks that substantial DPS to really make him viable. He's amazing if you have a couple of tanks that you can really like keep alive that can kind of help support him on a single point map, but you guys get the idea. B tier. Now let's talk about the A tier. These are solid options. They tend to be good on most of the maps regardless of the comps, but they're just not quite as good as the S tier brawlers. Starting off, we've got the newest addition to the game, Mr. P. His turret seems to like never die, and this is especially true in hot zone because enemy players don't want to get out of the zone to try and actually reach it to take it out when they have that opportunity to, because they'd rather just continue to get those points. So unless the enemy team has a thrower, his turret is permanently there and he generates huge value for his team over time. Now that being said, he's really great at attacking from a long range, but he's really terrible up close because it's so easy to dodge, really just cut his damage in half. So you got to be kind of prepared to fall back if necessary, but he's still going to gain a lot of value simply because of his turret. Now Nita is also in the A tier. Spawners are really good in hot zone, and Nita's no exception, especially with her bear. She's super easily able to just drive enemy teams away from zones, push them back, and maintain control when she does have control of a zone. Maps with 2 zones really allow Nita to operate effectively as a lone agent. Okay, she can just like go back and forth between the 2 zones, helping and adding support wherever she needs to her allies, or just like kind of keeping people pushed back. Her pierce damage also allows for her to get a lot of value against enemies that really clump up, which happens very frequently in this mode. Jessie, also in the A tier, okay? You need a lot of control in the center or at specific locations, and Scrappy generates a huge value for Jessie, okay? Not only does Scrappy represent a target that enemies have to like waste their attacks on, and she gets a lot of value that way, but also just the fact that she's able to attack and hit multiple targets at a time allows her to recharge up her ability over and over and over again, and she's just really, really good. Bo's also in the A tier. He's got high health, he can deal damage from a distance, he can burst damage up close. Bo is just all around great for hot zone. His greatest asset is his super bombs, right? Enemies will either waste time trying to trigger them, or they will get hit by the mines because they didn't see where they were, or they'll waste time trying to trigger them and get hit by the mines because it's hard to do that while you're dodging shots and you're trying to stay within the area of the zone. That gives Bo insane amounts of value with every single super. Next is 8-Bit in the A tier with an impressive range and impressive damage, impressive HP. He is a little slow, but all of those things kind of come together to help him be really good on maps with 2 zones. And of course, guys, his turret, the star of the show, it just generates so much value for his team in not only being a target that enemies have to waste their attacks on, but also just increasing that damage and making it so much more difficult for the enemy team to actually get in the zone. Hot zone. Okay, I'm done. Terra is also in the A tier, okay? With her super, I mean, oh my goodness, her super, she's just able to, like, you get enemies close up, bunched up, she throws down that super, you can wipe an enemy team, regain control of both zones, and not only is her super just super great, when she has it charged up, it makes it a huge risk for the enemy team to try and get back into the zone once they see that yellow flashing, right? It's like immediately they feel like they have to fall back, and she can basically just sit there and just be like, hey, bro, I'd like to see you try, but yeah. Penny is also in the A tier. You won't find a single spawner that is not in the A tier. They're just all so good. Penny's pierce damage just incredibly punishes brawlers who clump up and allows her to really just maintain that control of the zone. And that splash damage also takes advantage of all of the super strong spawners in the mode. Every spawner that places down a turret is weak against Penny, and that makes her so good. And on top of that, her turret really just punishes the typical brawler that, like, you know, hovers around the zone, which you see a lot in the zone. And that just makes it very likely that they're going to get hit by the turret. They're not going to want to leave the zone to try and get rid of the turret. Because of that, it's going to be up there for as long as she wants it to be. And really the only way that they're going to get rid of it is if you have a thrower. And yeah, it's good. Next up, we have Carl, okay? Ranged combat, check. High health, check. Melee abilities in his super, check. Yeah, Carl's a beast in almost every mode in Brawl Stars right now, and there is no questioning that he is A tier in this mode as well. I don't know why people aren't playing him as much as they should. He's so good. Pam. I said every spawner is going to be in here, and Pam is in the A tier. She deals, and this is actually like a really good mode for Pam, which I really like, okay? She deals a decent amount of damage from a distance, not the most, but she does it, and she deals even more up close. That makes her an excellent choice in Hot Zone, okay? Her turret generates consistent value in sustaining control of the zone, especially where Hot Zone you want to bunch up in a way, right? And no other mode is bunching up good, so this is especially good for Pam, especially once again when she is equipped with Mama's Squeeze star power, which damages brawlers that try and enter into the zone. Her other star power also really works well in this mode, but I really do like her Mama's Squeeze for this. B is also in the A tier, okay? Despite the nerf to her Honeycoat star power, B is still she's so good, okay? The brute strength of her power shot and her slow alone, just those two things together just absolutely qualifies for her for A tier, regardless of which star power you're using. Spike is also in the A tier. He has a decent amount of damage at a distance. He has a really good amount of damage up close. His ability to burst brawlers down is really solid, and the ability for him to heal with his fertilized star power is so good, and his super basically covers the entire zone. I mean, oh man, this is a really good mode for you to push Spike in as well. He's a solid A tier brawler. Ems is also in the A tier, okay? She is an absolute beast for this mode. She's got spread damage. She's got pierce damage. She has burst DPS. She has a super that covers more than the entire zone. She can basically cover 2 zones at once if she's between them. But she does really struggle with enemies that get up close to her and, you know, kind of all up in her business. And when in control, she is amazing, but she's very vulnerable to the upcoming S tier combo that we're about to talk about. And that's right, guys. Now we have the S tier brawlers. These are the best of the best. This mode was basically made for these brawlers, and they can be typically played regardless of it's 2 zones or 1 or any map or any comp, really. But the 3 of them together is especially really good. Rolling into the S tier is none other than Daryl, okay? Despite the nerf to his duration of the Steel Hoop star power, Daryl is still such a strong brawler throughout the meta, even with his Steel Hoops star power. With his automatic loading ambush super, Daryl is able to return into a lost zone and like immediately push brawlers out. Direct hits with his super often allow him to 1v1 any brawler in the game, and his ability to change supers also allows him to sometimes go in against a lot of brawlers at once, because he can super in, kill one of them, and super back out, and kind of, you know, like kind of offset the balance that was going on, the non-balance, because he was losing and he killed somebody and now he's winning. Also, the frequency of his supers makes it so that the mistakes with his super are just like really forgiving, okay? Next up, another S tier brawler is Rosa, with her super providing nearly infinite amounts of health. All brawlers will have a difficult time pushing her outside of a zone once she is controlling it, and despite having no ability to travel distance like most of the other tanks that are good for this mode, Rosa's range and the pierce for her attack so she can hit more people, and all that with her shield, makes her one of the most dominant tanks in Hot Zone, and she's even better when she has her healing star power if there are bushes within the zone. That's like cream of the crop pushing Rosa. It's like, it's so easy. And lastly, guys, we have the golden S tier brawler. The best brawler for the mode, voted by the tier list collaborators, is Sandy. No one is hotter than Sandy, the golden S tier brawler for Hot Zone. He is the glue of this S tier trio and just makes this comp specifically so incredibly dominant. His super covers more than an entire zone, and a lot of the times he can use it to just connect the zones, which makes it very easy for him to attack from one zone to the other, or for his teammates to do the same thing while going undetected. With Rude Sands, enemies are exposed, and that means that they are forced to leave the zone for up to 9 seconds. And with Healing Winds, him and his teammates are going to do a better job at staying inside the zone with an insane amount of healing per second. The cherry on the cake is the fact that his unload spread and the ability for him to attack more than one target at a time just makes it so easy for him to contest against other brawlers and charge up a super once an enemy is within range. And of course, now that we've covered every single brawler for the mode, let's go ahead and take a look at this tier list so you guys can grab that screenshot, because no, you guys love screenshots. There's the F tier if you care about that. And there is the regular tier list. I want to know what you guys think about this. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What other things you want to implement before the next tier list? Just whatever you guys want to say. You can even just let me know what you had for breakfast if that's something that you want to talk about for some reason. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Once again, a huge thank you to the tier list collaborators for helping out so much with this. For now, this is KairosTime ticking by, and we will see you in Brawl Stars.